Welcome to Her Success Matters, a podcast exploring how advisors can work together to build a pathway for women to succeed in financial services. I am your host, Christine Shaw, CEO of Investment News. This podcast will give you a rare insider access to the top financial services executives who are taking action to break down the barriers for the next generation of female advisors. Today's guest is Angela Pecoraro, CEO of Advicent, a leading provider of software-as-a-service technology solutions for the financial services industry, servicing the world's largest financial institutions. Angela is a technology executive with over 17 years of industry experience and held a variety of leadership positions in software-as-a-service companies of various sizes. Angela, it's such a pleasure having you here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Christine. It's a great opportunity and appreciate the invitation to participate.
Fantastic. Well, Angela, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and your journey to becoming the CEO of one of the leading technology companies in the financial services industry?
Great. Happy to do so. Started my career, as you mentioned, a number of years ago and really joined a software company that was quite small. In fact, didn't have any software background at all. Someone saw some potential in me, quite honestly, and said, you'd be a great fit for our sister company, which was an incubator business out of an independent insurance brokerage firm, one of the largest in the Midwest. And I knew a lot about insurance, but I didn't have any background in technology. But I took the opportunity to meet with some people and really learn what that was all about. And got an invitation to participate in an interview, and the rest is history. I worked in a business for many years, growing the business both organically and inorganically, wearing a number of different hats as any small entrepreneurial startup technology company would have you do, and just continue to raise my hand and learn a lot about the industry, software, anything and everything, and took a leap of faith, each and every time to try something new. Within one acquisition, we doubled the size of our business, and really that started the trajectory of a lot of the leadership roles that I held. So I often tell the story, and about 15 years from the date I started, again, probably employee number 32 or 33, to the day I took the position as CEO of the company was about 15 years. So I moved around the same organization and did a number of different things, and have the privilege today to lead a global team in financial planning technology and do very meaningful work each and every day.
Wow, what a terrific story and background. So, Angela, as a female CEO, especially in both technology and financial services, you certainly are an outlier. What are some of the career-defining moments that help you achieve this level of success?
When asked a question like this, I always hearken back to one of the most meaningful and impactful experiences I had with a person who today has become one of my very good friends and my professional mentors, and someone I rely on quite a bit. But about 12 or so years ago, I was in a position, again, working for a founder-led startup company, and we were purchased by a private equity firm. And at the time, I didn't really know what that all meant. I was really unsure about how that would impact the customer relationships that I worked so hard to create and develop over the years. And we were in a planning meeting to really identify what was going to be the next phase of our business. And I had a lot of questions. And on a break during one of those long meetings, this person followed me back to my office and said, "Hey, what's with all the questions?" And I said, I'm just really concerned about our customers and all this change and how we're going to do things differently. And I'm really worried that, it's not going to be the same or be much better. And she said, "Did you ever think for a moment that this change would be for the better?" And I said, "No, I really didn't." And she said, "Well, why don't you give it a shot?" And she walked out of my office, and I thought, wow, well, that was going to be a difficult conversation, but maybe I'll take this opportunity and see what this is all about. And I did. And I just welcomed the opportunity. I observed, but then I jumped feet first into it and really worked hard to develop the positive change for the business. And so as new and different things have presented themselves to me and to the business throughout the years, I've taken that philosophy to heart, and I've ran towards that change to just see how it goes, see if I can help make the business better, make the relationships with our customers better. And it has served me well. And I've kind of taken that approach with not only the business, but my career since then. And I think that was one of the most important defining moments of my career. Because since then, I've raised my hand and offered to help inside the business in a variety of different ways, and most often in roles that I hadn't done before. So, really taking a risk, trying something new. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of great people that were willing to give me a shot. So, that combination of things really has propelled my career over the last 10 to 15 years.
Angela, there's so many great tidbits in what you just told, and I love it. And I want to jump into some of those a little bit. So, one of the first things you said in your introduction to is that somebody saw potential in you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that, like just having someone see potential, because I think that speaks so much to confidence in women in general.
Mm-hmm.
We know don't have as much confidence and lack that. And that's one of the barriers of them moving forward. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. And, with experience, I definitely have more confidence in myself than I certainly did in my early years. I definitely lacked that. I wasn't sure, in certain scenarios if I could do certain things, but and throughout my career, it takes that one person maybe to give you a nudge or suggest that you might have some transferable skills that you may not even know that you had, that are really your strengths. So, I don't know that I was very deliberate about, seeking that support out early on in my career, but I think once a couple of those instances happened where someone saw something in me that maybe I didn't in myself, I tried to take that again and pay that forward throughout my career as well. So I'm definitely a living example of finding someone with some raw talent and putting them in a position to grow and try new things. Because again, relying on your raw talent will get you through just about anything, in my opinion. I'm of the mindset that you can learn anything if only given the opportunity. So I've learned a ton. And again, relied on some of my own raw talent to kind of get me through some sticky situations, whether that's just the learning curve or the discomfort of doing something for the first time, instilling confidence in a team maybe that you have not led before. And again, relying on my communication skills or my ability to establish strong working relationships with coworkers, things like that. So as I lead groups and as I go forward, I try to leverage those same philosophies with others. And again, I've learned things along the way from colleagues and friends and everyone I interact with. But there's a number of different sayings. Hire for potential or promote for potential. See something in someone and really understand those transferable skills, whether they're a strong project manager, they're great communicating with clients, they can handle difficult situations, they're highly organized, they're terrific in front of a camera or on stage presenting. These are all things that you need to kind of consider and give someone a shot. Sometimes your dark horse candidates end up being the best people for the job, and they exceed. And so I like to say, put a crown on them and watch them grow into it, because there's real opportunity there. They are hungry, they're ambitious, and they're enthusiastic about the opportunity. So they're going to really work hard and try their best. So that's been done to me. And like I said, I try to pay that forward. And oftentimes it really works out for the best.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I think as female CEOs, we have an obligation to try to pay it forward. And I do agree with you. In fact, I recall some defining moments in hiring people where I've gone for the raw talent over the perfect resume. And in fact, I experienced that myself. I recall one of my second jobs. This is going to really date myself back in the 90s. And my hiring manager said to me, like, I knew I did not have all the right stuff on my resume, so to speak. But after we interviewed, his words to me were, Christine, you can teach a smart person anything, but you can't teach somebody to be smart. And that really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it really drove me to say, you know what? He's right. And I think, more driven to learn. And I think that if you open yourself up to just learning, and as a hiring manager, you open yourself up to teaching and coaching, I do think that's where you can find some great talent out there. So that's fantastic. And I'm glad that that is part of your philosophy.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. I want to touch on a couple other points. One of the things you said is, asking questions. And I think sometimes people are afraid, and you have to find that balance. But I can remember my mom used to tell me I was like a Barbara Walters because I was unapologetically curious, which can be annoying. But I think too, if you find yourself in those moments in your career, and something it doesn't make sense to you, it's okay to ask questions, because that is how you learn. And I think sometimes women, there were so few of us that had a seat at the table at boardrooms or in manager meetings. And I think sometimes that we felt we shouldn't be asking the questions. So that takes some confidence as well to do that.
Yes, I agree as well. And I think asking questions is one of the easiest ways to really establish yourself and share your voice at the table. I think sometimes as I've interacted with, again, colleagues or people that I've mentored, they will often say to me, how do I find my voice? How do I start to establish myself as a legitimate team member in this circle, or what have you, whatever the situation is. And especially in a situation where someone's maybe new to their role or they're a new hire, they don't have all the answers, but they do have a perspective. And their job in the early days, weeks, or months is to learn and really understand what is going on so that they can provide that perspective. And so I always say the easiest thing you can do is simply ask questions. You're in a great position to do so. It gets you some practice on sharing your voice, leaning in during those conversations, and really starting to participate in the conversation. So set some context, maybe share, why you're asking the question, and ask questions. It's very non-threatening, and again, a great way to get your voice into the mix.
I love it. I absolutely love having your voice and finding your voice. It's so important. The other thing you mentioned too is that you had both a friend and a mentor throughout your career. Tell us about the role he or she played and how important that was to you in developing your leadership and management position.
Well, the person that I was representing or talking about earlier, her name is Betty, and she was a member of, and still is a member of, the leadership team at the private equity firm that partnered with us many years ago. And at first, she was more of a formal leader, if you will, and someone that provided direction, someone that I didn't interact with really day to day, but that I would interact with periodically. And so it was more just establishing a relationship early on. And then that grew to her providing me opportunities to be exposed to new and different things. So putting me in positions to observe an event or learn about a particular topic. And so just simply exposing me to those instances was helpful. And then it grew more often to nominating me to participate in a high potential leadership program designed for senior leaders within software companies, and really preparing them for their next level of leadership to become an executive of a software company. It was like a year-long mini MBA program sponsored by our private equity company that brought the best of the best senior leaders across the portfolio, in this case, about 35 to 40 individuals, and help guide them through a program to really understand technology and all sorts of things, from M&A to financing to all the things that a senior executive would need to really learn about, especially within their first run as an executive. So nominating me and advocating for me. And then it evolved over the last couple of years to becoming more of my executive sponsor, if you will. And as I took the reins as CEO, first time CEO, having her support to guide me more specifically and just be a sounding board and more of a closer confidant was really the role that she's evolved to playing. I don't know that her and I would say that that's, was deliberate and we planned that out. But it was a great working relationship all along the way and continued to grow. So she certainly played a role in the development of my career as a professional, but also as a person. One of the things that I can definitely compliment her on and appreciate her for is exposing me to things that we all probably worry about, is creating balance in your life. And again, finding your signature voice and taking care of yourself when you're a mom, a wife, a daughter, a leader of a company, a friend, and you need to invest in your own, mental health, physical health, all those things so that you can be your best self when playing those different roles. So it has really grown over the years, and I would encourage everyone to find those people in their lives to help play those roles because we all need that network to be successful.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Angela, that you talk about it in that way, because one of the trends I've seen in doing this podcast is almost everyone needs or has a Betty in their life. And it is interesting because sometimes that comes naturally through this mini MBA program and that bond forms, but other times it may not be as available or readily available to a female who is aspiring in her career. And I think the important thing is, if you don't have somebody readily available, that you seek that out and have that support, because that's incredibly important to the development of your career as you're navigating all of the things, as you said, that are uncharted waters for female executives. And, with that, I want to pivot. I recall a conversation you and I had at one of our conferences where we talked about that whole personal care, life balance, support at home, partnership at home, because I think you should tell our listeners too that in addition to all your amazing success in your career, you also have a wonderful family. So tell us a little bit about that and your support system and how that's helped you.
Yes, absolutely. And that was great. We had a great conversation. It was a fun time. Yes, I mentioned earlier, and I'm not unlike anyone else in that I'm married. I have 3 children, and I have been growing my career while they were very, very young. Married my high school sweetheart, and he took the opportunity to serve our community for almost the last 25 years as a frontline police officer. So proud of him and the work that he's done over the years. But the stability of his job has allowed me to focus on building my career and go to school while having children and all these crazy things going on, taking care of parents and all those things. So we definitely charted out our plan, and we were very deliberate about the investments we were making both in his career and in my career, and how those have changed over the years, and really, who needed to step up at home more for a period of time, to the support system we had to put in place for a period of time, maybe while I was going to school over the weekends and while he was still working, and really reaching out to family and friends to make sure that, not only did we have the support, but that I had the freedom to also, in my day, to play the role of the mother that I wanted to be, and not be absent, a ton because I'm investing in my career, or vice versa, that I'm, super busy at home and I can't put the focus in at work on a particular day or week that I needed to, whether there was an important project or a traveling situation or what have you. So it definitely was day by day, and continues to be day by day or month to month on how we do things, but good lines of communication, relying on others. And then, I think early in my career, it was about everyone else. And as I've evolved my career and the demands just got greater and greater, I started to work in the need to, again, provide that support for myself. So making sure that I'm carving out time to go to the gym, maybe sneak in to get a massage or a facial or something like that. Whatever the things that I enjoy to do to make sure that I'm, getting rid of some stress and have some alone thinking time. But again, just good communication and making sure the people around me understand, what I'm trying to do, but that I'm also supporting them in what they need to do. Because, at the end of the day, the career is great, and it's who I am. It's an element of and that's very important to me. But I've also, have a family, and I want to have a family, and I want to have a great time with them, and I want to raise wonderful children that are productive members of society and that are loving and have good support systems and great opportunities for themselves. So that's important to me, and I want to make sure that that balance is there, and that I'm making good decisions throughout the way. But definitely have to give kudos to my mom, my sister, my husband, and everyone else that helps me.
And I really just appreciate you saying all that, because I think, well, first of all, regardless of gender, we all need to have that self-care and that
Mm-hmm.
balance, because it's really important. We can't be there for our families or loved ones who are counting on us if we're not taking care of ourselves. And I think that in the past, there's been a lot of guilt associated with that, because you have to be the perfect mother or the perfect CEO, or somehow balancing both makes it like this guilt feeling. But it's okay. It's okay to have help. It's okay to rely on that. It's okay to, take some time, like you said, whether it's for working out or a massage or whatever you need to do personally in your life to feel that balance. So I really think that you've set a great example as a role model for doing that. And I applaud you for that. And I think that one of the things too, that as we're speaking, we're in the middle of a pandemic, which no one predicted would go on this long. And while it's been really difficult for a lot of people, I think one of the things we've all learned is companies are providing a lot more flexibility and remote working, which has been a barrier. Oftentimes you see women like yourselves who step away mid-career because maybe they didn't have that husband with the job flexibility that you described, or partner or significant other. And as a result of that, they felt the need to step away from their careers. And do you feel personally that this will help encourage more women to not take that break and continue on in their success?
I sure hope so. And, everyone has to make the right decisions for themselves and their families throughout their career that best suits them. And, there were times in my career, I actually went part-time, and I had small children at home, and I wanted to have Fridays off to have that special day with them. They were 2 and 4 years old at the time, or whatever it was. And, I knew I would never get that time back. And it was one of those periods where I mentioned, we were investing in my husband's career at that time, and that was important. And we wanted to invest in the family too. So that's the role that I played. And, you fast forward a year or two after doing that, there was a new opportunity at my place of employment that was really exciting, and I knew would be a great next step for me. And I knew it would be a full-time position. And so again, we had that conversation about investing in my career, and that for the next period of time, that made the most sense to our family. But I definitely think that this situation has really provided a new outlook on, what it means to be a working parent for many different things, right? Or, with all the homeschool that's been going on and all those things. But absolutely, I think one of the first things we did at Advicent was, we obviously had to move our entire global workforce to a work from home situation. And we did that within a 24-hour notification period. And I'm super proud of the team. They did it very seamlessly. But we saw productivity increase. We saw morale stay pretty high. There's obviously a lot going on, but this is just a new world. And, I think one of the duties of an employer is to give trust. And, doesn't mean you have to sacrifice accountability by giving trust. So, one of the first key messages I sent to the team once we worked from home, I said to my global team, listen, you guys are going to do your work. I trust you immensely. You'll get your work done. Just handle what you need to at home, get comfortable, figure it out, get your home offices set up. And again, if you have to go, to the grocery store in the middle of the day because that makes most sense for you and your family, go for it. Get up, take a walk at 2:00. All we ask is, again, the accountability of updating your calendar. but there was no stress around whether or not you were going to get your work done. We trust you. And I think that went a long way and continues to go a long way for people. That came from, early on in my career where I had a boss that that didn't have any children of her own. And I, was a new mom. I had 2 small children under the age of 2. One child gets sick. I have a husband who works 3rd shift. He's not available. I'm up all night with a sick child. I'm trying to figure out doctor's appointments. I have to come into work late or whatever. And she said, do what you have to do. I trust that you'll get your work done. I said, well, I know, but my family isn't real. In my family situation, really isn't shouldn't be the reason why my work is being impacted. She said, you'll get your work done. I'm not worried about it. I'd rather you get your family straightened out first. And then when you get to work, you'll have a clear head. You'll get your work done. No big deal. And so I so appreciated just those little times where someone said that. And I could just, you mentioned guilt, leave that guilt off to the side, handled what I needed to handle. And oftentimes I came back to work earlier, or I ended up staying later or putting the extra time in. And I had such a greater sense of loyalty towards her and towards my employer. And so I know that it comes back tenfold. So again, it's about giving trust. And again, you don't have to sacrifice accountability for that. Holding people accountable is still important. It's just, they might get it done during unconventional work hours. So be it.
And kudos to you and your former manager for having that sort of mindset prior to COVID. And I think that also you talk about character definition. Clearly that's had an impact on you, and clearly look at your success. As you said, you took a little break, you worked part-time, and I think that's okay. It's funny, I hire people all the time, and I just recently came across a resume where somebody very proudly and boldly put, during this time, I was being a mom. And years ago, you would be like, do not ever put that on your resume, try to hide that period. And, it's okay that if you want to make that the priority at that time in your life, that doesn't mean you're less valued or important in your career. So those are some really good things. What I want to do, Angela, is just kind of summarize some of the key takeaways. So one of the things I heard is, definitely starting off early, having that curiosity, having confidence, finding that key person or mentor in your life, paying it forward, being open to also getting coached or input from someone whom you trust in an organization, and having that sponsor. So those are all great tidbits. And again, taking from your example as a female CEO in a technology and financial services environment is certainly a testament to that. So I just want to ask you, as I ask all my guests, in your words, please tell the listeners why you believe her success matters.
Her success matters because it has a direct effect on the success of others. Whether that's my team, my customers, or even their clients. If I'm successful in my business, that means that there are a large number of people out there that are also being successful. Similarly, in my personal life, if I'm successful, I can have a greater opportunity to impact the lives of my family, my community, whether that's church, school, other nonprofit organizations that I participate in. Again, if I'm successful, I'm able to pay it forward and really impact the success of others.
That is so well put. So I really love that takeaway and the final thought from you. So I really just want to extend my appreciation and gratitude for you sharing your background, your story, some great takeaways, and really commend you as a leading CEO in financial services. So thank you so much today for your time, Angela.
Thank you, Christine, and congratulations to you as well, another trailblazer in the financial services industry. And it's been a pleasure working with you, and look forward to future conversations.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Her Success Matters. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available, and share this podcast with others that believe her success matters.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Investment News. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.